Hello there, and welcome back to the booth here at Pro Tour. Shadows over Innistrad. That's Randy Buehler. I'm Marcio Sutcliffe. We're working our way through the round here. We're going into round 2, so the second round of the booster draft here early in the day. We're kind of setting the stage, right? People are starting to get warmed up. You know, the shuffle hands are good to go. And we've got a nice one for you. We promised that we'd show you Martin Müller. We had watched him draft his blue-red deck on camera after we watched Reed, who we saw in the previous round. And we do have him in the feature match area, so Martin's playing against Donald Smith. Looks like players are still getting ready down in the feature match area. Once they're ready, though, we're going to send it down, and we're going to get to see them fight it out. Really curious to see what Martin did with his deck. Hey, they're ready to go. Let's head down to the feature match area for round 2 here from Pro Tour, Shadows over Innistrad. Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Shadows over Innistrad. I'm Marcio Sutcliffe in the booth with Randy Buehler. We're ready for round number 2, where we have one of our 2 feature drafters here in draft 1. We've got Martin Müller. Take a look at Martin here. A face we've seen a lot of.
Team World Magic Cup captain, champion, top 8 at Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar, a couple of Grand Prix top 8s, clearly one of the rising stars. Only in his 10th Pro Tour, by the way.
Right, he's a young man, and he tests with Team Eureka. On the other side of the table, well, we've got Donald Smith. Now, Donald doesn't have quite as much of a resume quite yet as even Martin at his young age, but Donald does have some nice hits on his resume, in fact, early in the stages.
Yeah, he made a deep run at Grand Prix Las Vegas, the Modern Masters GP last year. That got him a Pro Tour invite.
Which, by the way, was huge.
Oh, yeah. Top 8 at Grand Prix Charlotte.
Which was also huge.
The man can play some big tournaments.
Yeah.
Now, he's got a couple of day 2s at Pro Tours, 1 money finish, 11-5 at Battle for Zendikar.
Yeah, and that was his first Pro Tour as well. So he 11-5'd, ran it back the next time, ended up going 8-8 at the next one. But here he is again. So, I don't know. We might be seeing a lot of Donald Smith in the future.
Dueling rattle chains. That's hilarious.
Okay, Rattle Chain's mirror has been called. We've got a Ghoul Caller's accomplice as well.
Somewhere at this table, there's a blue-white player saying, "Where did all my spirits go?"
This could make things difficult, though, for Martin.
Yeah, a lot of his spells are sorceries, and Rattle Chain's going to let Donald do a lot of stuff at instant speed,
It looks like he's got an ongoing investigation here, which is a really big deal. If left unchecked, this thing is going to generate massive amounts of value for Donald, even if he doesn't have the ability to activate its activated ability of 1 and a green. He can still kind of go off here just with clues. So we'll see how this thing plays out, as Martin is now going to have to try to take the race route, which is what he's doing. He's got a Stitchwing Scob here as a follow-up, and you can clearly see what Martin's game plan is. It's flyers. He's all about flyers. He used Adjust the Wind there quite aggressively.
Yeah, Martin's blue-red spells is what it looked like as he was drafting it, but he's aired a little more on the side of creatures than this archetype does sometimes. It's 12 creature, 11 spells, so kind of right down the middle. It's not the, I've seen some of these with as few as 5 creatures.
Okay, Thing in the Ice is the play for Martin Müller. He's going to play it pre-combat and attack with both creatures, but you can see clearly that Donald Smith is trying to take a defensive stance now. What's happening here is Martin feels, wow, Jace's Scrutiny, this card has gone up for me in a big way, Randy.
Card's great.
Yeah, -4, -0 until him to turn to a creature and instant speed, but here's the key. You investigate as well. And so what we're going to see here is once he cracks that clue, he will have completed a 2-for-1, as we call it. He's going to get 2 cards for just 1 out of that. And you can do that more often than it looked like you could for Jace's Scrutiny, I think, at the onset of the format. But what's happening here is, even more interestingly, I think, is the big picture view on the match, which is that ongoing investigation only does things when you can attack and hit your opponent. If you cannot, and by the way, Martin's going to block here with his Thing in the Ice as a result. If you cannot do that, then it does nothing, right? No green mana on the side of Donald Smith here, so it doesn't do anything. And so what Martin's trying to do is basically punish Donald for playing a card that only benefits him while he's attacking by attacking Donald over and over and over again. Sinister Concoction here for Donald Smith is going to take down the Stitchwing Scob, but that thing comes back. Martin Müller could bring it back if he wants.
For the record, by the way, 1 Woodland Stream in Donald's deck for green mana.
Okay. it looks like Martin's just going to pass the turn back. One of the interesting things that we noticed as well, Randy, I actually had Neil Rigby check on this for us. He was down on the floor for the draft. We watched Reed Duke draft black-red, and we see that Martin is playing blue-red here. And, you know, the best red common in the whole entire set
It's Fiery Temper.
Fiery Temper. None at the table.
Oh, wow.
Not in their decks. At the whole table, nobody opened a Fiery Temper, apparently.
Crazy.
And it's a common. It's very unlikely for that to happen. It's shocking and kind of cool that it ended up playing out that way, because people are going to be playing around it. So it looked like Martin maybe just leaving up some type of reactive spell there, or maybe wanting to bring back a Stitchwing Scob instead. Stormrider Spirit's going to get flashed in on end step, and the Air Force is mounting quite quickly. Martin's going to crack that clue that he had from the Jace's scrutiny before going to attack. So Thing in the Ice has 3 counters on it right now. Martin attacks for 5, dropping Donald down to 8. And passes his turn.
Stitchwing Scob, by the way, a horror.
Indeed. Good call. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. It looks like the Thing in the Ice is just going to be on blocking duty here, which is definitely important. The Accursed Witch does look like it's probably going to hit. In fact, both are going to hit this time. Wow. Martin did not block with his Thing in the Ice that time. Kind of interesting. The Accomplice is just a 2/2. Donald has been attacking with it routinely. Martin didn't want to risk it. He does get a clue. And he's going to play a Stitched Mangler to keep Stormrider Spirit at bay, at least for a turn cycle. Is that a... he's just going to... Wow, Martin's just straight up discarding spells to get back his Stitchwing Scob here.
This is almost lethal. It's 1 point away.
How about actual lethal?
Uncaged Fury is the damage.
But wait.
Would be.
Oh, look at this play from Donald Smith. This is awesome. He's got Essence Flux here.
Doesn't matter. 3-power double strike is still 6.
You're right. It didn't matter anyway. Oh, that was going to be a sweet play.
It was a sweet play.
Yeah, so Donald Smith Essence Flux his own Stitch Mangler there, and was going to try to lock down one of the creatures in combat, but unfortunately for him, that one particular combat trick actually ends up getting in for the extra 4 damage that he needed. That's going to do it for the first round here. We'll be back right after this.
Unravel the madness. Shadows over Innistrad is now available on Magic Online. Explore the new set by signing up for Magic Online at mtgo.com. Test your skills at a local preliminary Pro Tour qualifier. To find an event near you, visit magic.wizards.com/pptq.
Welcome back to the feature match area here in Madrid, Spain. We're in round 2 of our booster draft here on day 1. You can see there's quite a few matches still happening here.
Yeah. We got...
All right, why don't we go to our back table there and go for a little live look at here.
Oh, we've heard about this deck.
Scott, I've seen it.
Did you look through it? Is it as good as it's rumored to be?
It's a 10 out of 10.
Just flat 10 out of 10.
Yeah, the deck is absolutely fantastic and lacking nothing. Though I will say, Luis looks like he's lacking a little life total here as he's down to 5 and taking big hits here from James Zorns. There's a grotesque mutation that I can see in hand for Luis Scott Vargas, but unfortunately for him, nothing to target it with on the blocks. Right now, he's taking 8 damage, and he's at 5. Is there any way he can get out of this? Does he have enough mana? Let's see.
It's Luis's attack.
Oh, we're watching Luis's attack right now? Okay, well, that helps a lot.
Sure.
Insolent Neonate.
Attack. Upkeep. During my upkeep, this triggers. I will mill this card.
You can hear James
I will draw a card for my turn.
No perfection.
talking through his upkeep step there.
The aberrant researcher.
Kind of interesting. Luis actually needs James to attack with the Skulker there.
Funny.
Both other creatures are in the air. They are lethal when combined.
So 2 lethal flyers, two flyers that combine to lethal, but the ground creature attacks. Luis is going to get to block and lifelink.
Exactly.
Wow.
Weird, right? And he did.
It's admirable patience from Luis.
I mean,
and
it's a
gonna
risk
work.
for sure.
Oh, he's got Murderous Compulsion, so he can kill one of the creatures anyway.
Okay.
He had it the whole time.
He had it.
Doesn't even bother with the lifelink. That's the last card in his hand, right?
Mm-hmm. He does fall down to 2 here, though.
Yeah.
Now he's going to be able to change that math. But wow, not if James keeps adding more threats to the board. And geez, he has a Quilled Wolf and a Solitary Hunter here in one swoop.
Both these guys did win their first round.
So Luis can get in for 7 here with the Grotesque Mutation and the Elusive Tormentor.
So 7 life-linked.
Right, so he can attack here, pay the, when the creature isn't, when Insidiousness isn't blocked, but it's actually not enough. Wow. James Zorns takes down Luis Scott Vargas in, well, it looks like game 1 here.
Didn't notice that.
Yeah, so Luis has a black-red vampires list here. Interestingly, he opened up an Olivia.
That's a good reason to be black-red vampires.
Yeah, and he didn't take it.
He passed Olivia and then went black-red vampires?
Yeah, and he has an Olivia in his deck.
He opened 2 Olivias?
Yeah. So what happened is his pack one pick one was Elusive Tormentor as his double face card.
Okay, so he took a bomb
Mobilize
black rare rather than a gold card.
Right, and it just keeps you a lot more open on colors. But then he just opened an Olivia after moving into vampires in pack 2 anyway. So.
Hilarious.
Yeah, and that's how you do it.
3 Olivia's Bloodsworn?
Yes.
That's great.
The
2
uncommon.
Murderous Compulsion. A Kindly Stranger.
Yep.
Elusive Tormentor. Dead Weight.
Wait till you get over to the red.
Oh, I got to look at the red. All right.
Yeah. Look for 2s.
Falcon Wrath Gorger is good. 2 Incorrigible Youths.
2 of them.
Sick.
All right, looks like our main table, is just about ready to go. So we're going to jump back up there as they're finishing up resolving their mulligans.
James Zorns, by the way, 2 Grand Prix top 8s. Qualified for this with the Detroit top 8 finish earlier this year. 5th PT for him.
Both him and Luis, of course, are 1-0 in our draft so far. All right, so let's get back to business here. Martin Müller finds himself up a game over Donald Smith. And it looks like we've got another update here. Valentin Mackel from Austria is up a game over Reed Duke. So we'll keep a close eye on that one as well.
Do we know anything about what Valentin drafted yet?
No, but we can look it up. We should have the deck list here.
Looks like he is red-white. 16 lands, so pretty aggressive. Nahiri.
That could be tough.
Nahiri, among other hits.
Oh, wow. That's insane. So Asylum Visitor there for Donald Smith. Looks like it's just going to trade off with the Rattle Chains this time, though. Take a look at Asylum Visitor. Nice stats, though. A 3/1 for 2 mana hits hard enough that you're pretty happy with it. And it's Rattle Chains all around here. That one was on end step for Smith. Took a little risk there. Gets countered, but really unlikely. So, like the play there from Donald.
Ongoing investigation.
And there's an ongoing investigation. And now, all of a sudden, the pressure's on Martin to have an answer for Rattle Chains right now. And he doesn't. Investigate. Again, we haven't seen Donald Smith. Yeah, it's funny looking at his list here. He has 1 green source. He has a Woodland Stream. He actually had a forest in his main deck, scratched it out. It became a 0. So he can activate ongoing investigation. But the truth of the matter is, he doesn't even have to. As long as he can get ahead and just keep chipping away in the air, like right now. He has a pretty clean attack. He also can use his Sinister Concoction to take on the Stitchwing Scob and just guarantee 1 additional hit if you'd like. Certainly don't see any problem with that.
Jace's Scrutiny.
Ooh.
And here's Scrutiny again. So Jace's Scrutiny once again is going to give -4/-0 until end of turn. And it's 2-for-1s all over the place here for Donald Smith. He's going to, and this is a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice. He may just run away with this game.
Jace's Scrutiny just keeps going up and up and up.
Yeah.
I heard it called Annihilate. It's better than Annihilate. It's 4 mana, kill a creature, draw a card, apparently.
Indeed. Was that a Blood Mad Vampire? What was that from from Martin. We just cut away. Ah, it
Mad
was
Prophet.
a Mad Prophet. Okay. Yeah, it's still a tough spot for Müller here. Like, even that Ghoul Caller's Accomplice can start piling in for a reasonable amount of damage here.
3. Alright. Combat? Yeah.
Donald Smith also has the option of using Sinister Concoction now to make sure that there's no madness shenanigans. All right, he's got 2 clues now. And Martin Müller's down to 14 and falling fast. 2 spells in hand for Smith.
You're good.
He's going to play a Silent Observer, which doesn't look amazing here. Oh, there's Rise from the Tides there from Müller. Looks like he brought it in out of the sideboard, Randy.
Interesting. Wonder if the teammates looked at his deck after he built it. They're like, what is this doing in your sideboard?
Yeah. We both thought he would have played it.
Yeah, I was surprised. I mean, seeing that he wound up at fully 12 creatures made me slightly less surprised, but still.
Oh, what's better than 1 Mad Prophet? Double trouble. Unfortunately, of course, Mad Prophet's more of an enabler card rather than being a great ground creature. It's just a 2/2 for 4. Stats don't really live up here unless you're doing some kind of sweet stuff with it. And now it looks like a Mad Prophet may just be trading off for a Ghoul Caller's Accomplice and another Jace's Scrutiny. Wow, they're just everywhere here.
Kill a creature, draw a card. It's even better than Annihilate. You get the installment plan on the mana.
Indeed. All right, Dan Lanthier is up a game over Sam Tharmaratnam in the All-Canada fight on our side table.
Canadian King.
Indeed. Wow, interesting. Donald Smith plays the land from his hand so that he can crack a clue. He also, though, has to manage the fact that he's got that Sinister Concoction, doesn't want to have to discard an actual spell to it. So he's managing his mana here as he moves through, and he's certainly valuing getting a clue crack this turn higher than the opposite. In the meantime, Martin is going to be able to churn through his deck to find what he needs, but he is under enough pressure that he doesn't have infinite time to get that done.
Do you find Reduced Ashes?
I do believe he did. I don't know how good that is here.
I mean, if he kills a flyer and reduces Donald's offense down to mostly ground creatures, he can set up Rise from the Tides, maybe?
I mean, it's in his graveyard, so...
Oh, yeah, that doesn't work. All right, bounce a token creature.
Just the wind a creature, so that effectively kills a creature. That's nice. That'll help get things moving for Martin.
Off Madness, too.
Indeed.
Draw a card.
Yeah, I mean, look, those Mad Prophets can absolutely churn through his library very, very quickly, but his life total is falling quickly as well. So Donald's going to crack a clue on end step. 2 cards in his hand.
Combat.
Go to combat, and he's just rumbling with the team here.
I'll investigate.
So Druna Corpse Trawler is going to get in for 1. Another couple from the Rattle Chains in the air, and the Silent Observer for 1.
Draw.
Dropping Martin down to 7. And a few clues are going to get cracked in the main phase here. Okay. Thraben Gargoyle now for Donald Smith. That is threatening lethal next turn if you'd like to spend the mana, unfortunately not this turn, but next turn to transform it. Costs 6 mana to transform. And it becomes, well, it becomes a lot scarier. 4/2 with flying. Martin's digging, 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 trying to get out of this. He's found a Gone Missing. It's a little slow here, though. He's going to play Thing in the Ice. Okay, now this is a way that he can get out of this mess. There's Gone Missing. He's going to play it on the Thraben Gargoyle to make sure that it doesn't become Stonewing Antagonizer and kill him next turn. And he is hanging on for dear life here.
Draw. Yeah.
Of course, the downside is that Donald Smith has had a removal spell sitting on the battlefield for this whole time with that Sinister Concoction. if he ever feels that thing in the ice is starting to become threatening, he can just kill it.
The ongoing investigation has been huge for Donald Smith this game, too.
I mean, look at his hand.
Right. I mean, he would be out of gas if it wasn't for all those clues.
Totally. And tell you what, he's got a clue to spare.
Yeah.
Looks like just the Flyers are going to hit the red zone here, dropping Martin down to 4. Martin's had 2 Mad Prophets on the turn for multiple turns and has to find a way to survive here.
You're good.
Okay, so he's going to play another Silent Observer as well as a Thraben Gargoyle before passing the turn. And this is a tall order here for Martin Müller. Can tell you, by the way, that our Luis Scott Vargas versus James Zorn's match is going to a game 3. That was quick too.
Yeah,
so
Luis won a quick game too.
Yeah, Luis looks like he got off to a better start that time. And Zorn's is going to be, of course, on the play for that third one.
Reduced to ashes, discarded to the Mad Prophet.
Yeah, that's not going to save him here. He's facing potentially multiple lethal threats in the air here. Activate Mad Prophet. Pyrehound's going to hit the graveyard. Martin finds an Erdwall Illuminator. That is a blocker. That can block the Rattle Chains and eat it. It can even chump block the Thraben Gargoyle, though it's really just up to Donald Smith to use his Sinister Concoction here. If he does, he should be good to go.
Well,
Failing any madness shenanigans from Müller.
can I interest you in a flash flying creature?
Interesting, and there is 5 mana illuminating rather ominously, I would say, on the other side of the battlefield. Donald's certainly going to be aware of the possibility of a Stormrider Spirit here from Müller. He did see it in game 1.
Is this a fine? Yeah.
Martin's going to just double check Stonewing Antagonizer quickly. Again, it's just a 4/2 with flying.
Transform? Yeah.
And that's what it's going to become right now. So it transforms.
Combat? Yeah.
Boom. Team in there outside of the Corpse Trawler on the ground. Okay. And there's a Stormrider Spirit. Now, this is before blocks.
Right.
This is the opening. And there we go. Donald sees it. He does have to discard a card there. And I don't mean
Martin
that
scooped
because
him up.
yeah, I don't mean because it matters. I just mean because Martin might see a card that matters.
Right. Martin should have looked to see
Smallest
what
of
he
edges.
discarded for
Yes,
teeny tiny edge.
Yes, he should have. But anyway, that will do it for game number 2. So now we're tied up at 1 game apiece. And you said it, ongoing investigation, really the all-star there. And and he never even had green mana available to activate the activated ability. It was
never
just
played
clue
a
generator.
He also never played an actually good creature, really. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
Rattle
Chains
Chains is good, but
yeah.
I mean, it's a 2-mana 2/1.
It's funny.
Just you get enough, random 1/5 flyers and 2/3 ground dorks, and eventually your opponent runs out of life.
Okay, let's jump
timed
back.
this perfectly.
I know a lot of people at home will want to see Luis Scott Vargas versus James Zorns as they go to their game 3. Again, we came in right at the end, and it looked somewhat close. It looks like Luis may be taking a mulligan here. Looks like pretty close, and then we came over, and their second game has been finished for a while now, as you can see. Luis winning game 2. Both of these players are 1-0, looking to make it to the finals of their draft pod. Reed Duke also evens things up against his opponent, Valentin Mako from Austria. So we got Reed Duke with Red-Black Vampires, and we've got Luis Scott Vargas with Red-Black Vampires here.
I ran into Paulo between rounds. He's also got a Red-Black Vampires deck.
Interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. I agree.
Okay, so Luis is going to keep a 6-card hand here.
Yeah,
2,
Scry to the
3, 4,
bottom.
5, 6. Yep, and Scry to the bottom. He's on the draw, of course. He's got an Insolent Neonate to kick things off here. Zorns plays an Island, followed up by a Forest. And he's got a Daring Sleuth here on turn 2. Daring Sleuth will transform if James sacrifices a clue, which is kind of weird, a little different.
Yeah, it turns into a nice
Yeah,
card.
decent body, yeah.
It's funny that the
3/2
2/1 half
prowess.
of it is actually relevant on this board. Luis left Insolent Neonate home to play defense.
Yep. Bearer of Overwhelming Truths is the other side. It's a 3/2
Yeah, Luis
with
just
prowess. And yeah, that's a pretty easy trade there, I think, for Scott Vargas.
Your turn.
But let's see if this opens the way. Was that nothing from
traded.
Zorn?
Nothing from James Zorns and
And
Olivia.
there's Olivia. And by the way, I didn't mention this earlier, Randy. It's foil. Because why wouldn't it be? You pass the not foil one and open a foil one.
I see from Luis's deck list, he's also playing the foil mountain. That
Nice. All right, Quilled Wolf. This is not going to get the job done. And these are the type of turns that get absurd with Olivia. I don't know what Luis has. I think, yeah, so he doesn't have anything. And Zorn's, even though he's taking 3 in the air, is actually going to breathe a sigh of relief here because things get disgusting.
no hasty creatures came down.
Exactly. I thought I saw an Incorrigible Youths in Luis's hand, but maybe he's got other plans.
Well, he has to play something else first, right?
Sure. Quilled Wolf is going to attack.
Try to play this
Get
guy.
in for 2.
You got it. Your turn.
And there's a nice big beefy blocker.
True.
So what we're going to do here is, we know you want to see the ending of Luis Scott Vargas versus James Zorn, so we're going to keep this going. But we're not going to hold up Martin Müller and Donald Smith. We're going to let them start. There it is. There is the Incorrigible Youths. Luis is going to discard a mountain to activate Olivia, which is going to give Incorrigible Youths haste. It already had it. But it's also going to give it a
Double
+1/+1 counter. And as I found out against you, Randy, makes it into a vampire as well, which in this case wasn't relevant. It's just going to trade off for the Thornhide Wolves, but sometimes it is.
14, is that right? Yeah. Okay, just checking.
There's a lot going on with
No-
Olivia mobilized for war.
No Stencia Masquerades in Luis's deck. That's usually the card that makes it relevant most often.
Attack for 2.
Attack for 2 from the Wolf. Now he could pump it here, go for the 3-turn kill, but it looks like he'd prefer to develop
Ooh.
his board with a Keswick Dire Swine here.
That's
And
big.
I got to say, James is doing a really good job of putting up just huge creatures on the battlefield. And while Olivia is great for 3 mana, she does not match up well against 6 mana spells.
No,
you
I
know?
mean, Luis has played this game where he's traded, and if he can just keep trading card for card and hitting with Olivia,
Oh, and
that
you see
works
why
out.
he's trading now, Randy.
Oh, my.
Did you see what just happened? He macabre waltzed back
Oh,
2
my God.
creatures and then madnessed in Incorrigible Youths. Now, unfortunately for Luis, he can't actually attack this turn because of the Keswick Dire Swine, but he's threatening a huge hit. So if James wants to get aggressive and start attacking with his Dire Swine, it's actually going to be pretty tough for him. Now, for those of you keeping an eye on the upper right, you can see that our main match is underway there. So if you're interested in seeing what Martin Müller and Donald Smith have going on, you can keep an eye on it, but we're going to keep the screen just as it is and kind of keep it in dual view for you here so you can keep up on both.
I have not seen Macabre Waltz to regrow and then madness out Incorrigible Youths.
Gross.
That is pretty sweet.
Insolent Neonate was the other card that Luis got.
It's just too bad he couldn't do that before combat. Wow.
So this is a huge turn for Zorns because he needs to decide, am I racing? Am I winning this
Right.
race? Because he can attack for a huge amount of damage here. Just a massive hit if he wants.
Or he can have a 6/6 on defense.
Exactly. The attack with the Quilled Wolf is relatively free here for James, as if Scott Vargas were to block, James would pretty happily pump 6 mana to just kill an Incorrigible Youth for free. Oh, he's tapping mana pre-combat here, it looks like.
Attack here.
Oh, and we see why. Because he's clearing the way to get in for 8 damage. Now, this is
Yikes.
really important because Luis is at 16. So that is exactly half of his life total and means that James will have the ability to attack for lethal the next turn.
Top 13 cards.
So this isn't exactly on game plan here, but he's going to go ahead and mill him for 13 anyway.
Sure.
May I review? Can't quite see with the glare and the wind.
James just wants to get a closer look at the cards that he actually got. So Startle Awake, a reasonable alternate win condition, but it actually doesn't look good here at all. This is not what James wants to do with his 4 mana and card from his hand. Though I will say James looks like he's in a pretty good position here as Luis is firmly on the defensive after that massive attack and really can't mount an offensive coming in the other direction thanks to the Stitch Mangler.
James's deck looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's solid. What
big
Luis needs
creatures.
is some of his murderous compulsions here,
Yeah.
because those would do a really good job of killing these massive. I mean, you kill a 6-mana creature for 2. I feel pretty good about it.
Oh, Olivia trigger. Does he have? Oh my God.
He does have it.
Uses Olivia to discard Murderous Compulsion to kill a 6/6. And oh, by the way, Neonate is hasty and 2/2.
But wait, there's more. And he needed this because he was still facing lethal on the crackback with the Quilled Wolf. So Grotesque Mutation is going to gain Luis 6 here and put him up to 14, taking him out of any realistic crackback range while bringing James to a lowly 3. That was gross.
What a turn.
Draw card.
Remember, James is top decking here as well.
Wow. And yeah, 3 power in the air from Luis.
14.
For next turn, James has to deal with Olivia right now. Or somehow
Also-
deal 14.
Right,
That
and
doesn't
there's
seem
a lot
realistic.
of more outs for Luis in the deck. Any combat trick or burn spell also, because the Insolent Neonate happens to have Menace here,
Good point.
means that he could just attack with everything, and if James can't double block, then he could just, you know, let's say Olivia were to die, Clipped Wings or something.
How many cards? It's more than 13, right?
I would assume so.
Was that 14?
It's
14.
It's 14, but I mean, James
There's not time for that
doesn't have
anyway.
the ability to Startle Awake him here anyway. He can pay 5 mana to put Startled Awake as Persistent Nightmare, which is a 1/1 with Skulk, and when it deals combat damage to a player, it returns to your hand. But it will have Summoning Sickness,
Right.
and he can't realistically return it to his hand, I'm assuming. He needs to have an answer to Olivia first and foremost, unless he can kill Luis now. I think James is just going through the motions here because I don't think he has it.
He's got, is this, in, what is he? 3 mana, can't quite see what the card in his hand is.
It's a Niblis of Dusk, so he does
Okay.
have a blocker for Olivia.
Yep. And he was 1 mana short of putting the Startled Awake back into play.
Exactly.
That's why he kept counting. 1 more mana and he would have had a game plan.
Again, this is really, really close, though. If Luis has any type of combat trick or burn spell, he can finish him off. If he doesn't, he can force a chump block with Olivia and then just has to
Yep.
survive.
Yeah, the Olivia is going to just effectively kill a creature by turning sideways. Question is, can Luis win here? Oh, hello.
Oh, never mind.
How about +2/+2 on my Menace
Yeah,
creature? How
Maniacal
about
Rage.
all
So-
3 of my creatures are lethal now, and one of them has Menace?
Yep, and that does it. Luis Scott Vargas with the win on the board finishes off James Zorn. So that means we get to pop back to our main match here and see, let's get caught up on what's going on between Martin Müller and Donald Smith.
Luis just doesn't want to hang out with us on Sunday again, huh? He top-8'd the last Pro Tour.
I try not to take it personally.
It's off to a nice start here, and he seems... Did you talk to him about Constructed at all?
Yes.
He's got like a smirk when he talks about Standard.
Yes, he does. That is a perfect description of what it was. And they've actually been on this deck for a couple of days, too, which usually they'll wait to the last minute to make sure everything's set in, and he was done. He had booked that deck. So I'm really excited to see what they came up with in Constructed. But for now, round 2 of Booster Draft here. It looks like Donald Smith pretty significantly behind on life total, 6-17. And let's sort of start working through. Oh, I see what's happening here. So Silent Observer is like a removal spell against Martin. Because he's playing all these flyers, and his whole game plan is to try to kill you in the air. And a 1/5 with flying just sits there holding it off forever. And it looks like the board has developed a little wide here. Smith down to 5 now.
Yeah.
All right. You may have a couple of 1/5s in the air, but I'm sending all of these. Which
Really
two
funny here,
do you
too.
want to block?
There's an Asylum Visitor on the battlefield as well. I think it might be getting a little awkward for Smith here.
Block
It looks like they've, like, maybe Martin's got one card in hand and Donald has two.
Yeah.
An Asylum Visitor says at the beginning of each player's upkeep, if that player has no cards in hand, you draw a card and lose a life. So Martin can actually force through damage, sort of, by being hellbent here, and he is.
Yeah.
He uses another Jace's Scrutiny. We've seen that card be really important in this match.
Also triggers his Nibelus.
Triggers his Nibelus and gives him effectively a card in hand that isn't in his hand. He's got 2 clues on the battlefield here.
Crazy.
Donald Smith is down to 1, so yeah, and this is all that needs to happen. You can see that Donald attacks with the Asylum Visitor, hoping that Martin will block. And what's going to happen here is he just has to pass the turn, and that's it.
Martin kills him with his own Asylum Visitor.
Yeah, although, I thought I saw a removal spell in hand for Donald there. Maybe he was just dead on board anyway, but I mean, you
Probably. That's a lot of flyers.
You can kill your own Asylum Visitor. All right, well, that does do it, though, as we see Martin Müller take down.
So Martin is 2-0.
He's 2-0.
We'll be playing to win our feature pod.
That's correct.
You can see the empty table back there.
I can tell you that Reed Duke will not be playing to win our feature pod. Valentin Mackel defeated him. Yeah, 2-1. So Valentin looks like he's put himself into the finals there of our featured pod. And why don't we jump in on Dan Lanthea versus Sam Tharmaratnam in the All-Canada fight here on the King of the Table match. Some interesting stuff here on the battlefield.
Magnifying glass.
Yeah, you don't see that. That's the card that I think you and I would love it to be good, but I don't think it is.
Don't currently believe that it is. Griffspoon is a card I do think is very good.
Yeah, Griffspoon has been impressive, especially if you're playing a strategy where it sometimes ends up in the graveyard and you can get it for free. It's a great tempo play, too.
Yeah, so the aggressive red-white decks, just sending a guy to the air is often the reach you need to finish up a game.
Yeah, that's actually why I'm surprised that, because we are in the third game here as we move forward. I'm surprised to see a magnifying glass on the battlefield for Sam. Playing against red-white, by the way, Dan definitely more Canadian than Sam here with the red-white deck. But, that's the kind of thing that you really just can't afford to be messing around with the magnifying glass unless you're ramping to something great, really, really impressive.
Yeah, and you can tell from the life totals kind of how these early turns have played out. Mm-hmm. Unruly Mob's not normally hitting this hard when it's your 2-drop, but he's turned it into a scary flying attacker. Dan in his 14th Pro Tour.
GP champ times 2.
GP champ times 2, Vancouver and Quebec City.
Like I said, more Canadian. Sam's clinging to 4 life here, though he does have a Pious Evangel that can help get his life total buoyed a little bit. He's going to play an Emissary of the Sleepless, which I'm sure is how some of our players feel here on the jet lag. That's going to bump Sam back up to 5, but it just feels like he's behind here.
Sin Prodder.
Ooh, jeez.
Yeah, Sin Prodder when the opponent's on 5 starts to get really, really good.
And I mean, look at this. He's showing a Bound by Moonsilver, just one of the best cards in Dan's deck.
I guess you got to pay.
And he just has to go down to 2 because he's going to take the damage from that anyway. This is looking really bad for Tharmaratnam here, though. Looks like Dan may be taking the King of the Hill match if Sam can't come up with something. Now, I will say that Sam was pretty far behind in the match that we saw and managed to scrap his way back out of it. That might happen again here.
Inner Struggle and Ethereal Guidance still in Dan's hand? Wow. How much Ethereal Guidance did you expect to see?
between 0 and 1,
+2/+1 to the team.
leaning towards 0.
Attack.
But here we go.
Yeah, people have started to find ways to play really aggressive decks.
Can't lie, it makes me pretty happy to see all of these different cards seen play.
Format is so deep. Do I have to keep broadcasting? I can't just go play Magic Online the rest of the day?
No, we've got you booked for the rest of the day, Randy. But
right,
tonight. And looks like Dan's attacking with everything here. Sam's lining up a bunch of blocks, including a chump block, twice.
It's fine like that. I'm gonna have him deal 2 damage to
Wow.
himself.
Yeah, the inner
wow.
struggle
Yeah,
to
inner
break up
struggle
the double block.
for Dan Lanthea. Yeah, this is just getting kind of gross at this point. And Sam's just going to have to kind of shrug and need something amazing to beat Dan this game.
Yeah.
We're talking descend upon the sinful levels of amazing here, I think, to get him out of this mess. He's down to 218 facing 3 lethal attackers now.
Grip full of cards for Sam, but
Don't think any of those get the job done. He does have a grotesque mutation, which makes me think that it's possible to survive. The unfortunate part for Tharmaratnam is the flyer, and yeah, he's got to extend the hand. So Dan Lanthea is going to be our new king of the hill as he picks up the match with an aggressive red-white deck. We've seen aggressive red-white. We've seen aggressive black-red all over the place. We've seen werewolves. Where's all the goofy decks? Where's all the I mill myself a bunch? Where's all the clues?
Martin Müller.
Martin, all right.
Martin's going to be playing to win the feature pod with blue-red spells.
I mean, if he committed to the Rise from the Tides, I'd be willing to give him credit for the goofy deck.
He's really just a flyer tempo deck.
He's just a flyer tempo deck, which is cool too. I like it too. I think that's awesome. All right, well, we've got some updates from around the tournament from Rich Hagan right now.
All right, thank you so much to Brian David Marshall, who is out on the floor. Thanks to Marshall Sutcliffe and Randy Bueller, who are there in the studio, giving us all the action from round number 2. So I've got some results to give you. Let's talk about some people who are 2-0. Now, the way this tends to work, field of the best part of 400 players, 12-4 puts you on the cusp of the top 8. If you can get 3 losses or fewer, that should be good enough for the top 8. So if you're at 1-1, it's no disaster, but 2-0 is where you want to be at this point. 2-0s, Jacob Wilson, Raphael Levy, the French Hall of Famer. Craig Wesco looks in a great shape because of the way the format standard may be working. So if he can get out of limited with a good result, maybe he has some version of green-white humans coming your way in standard. Kenji Samura, the Hall of Famer, defeated Masashi Oiso, another Japanese Hall of Famer, last round. Samura is up to 2-0, as is the Pro Tour Theros champion, Jeremy Desani. Well, there are tons of fantastic players who've won Pro Tours, who've won world titles, who have all the top 8s in the world. But no one is an easy matchup here at the Pro Tour. Let's see who BDM's got with him out on the floor.
Thanks, Rich. So we just watched Samuel Thammaratnam, who's one of 5 players in the lead for the Draft Master. We just saw him in the feature match area. I'm in between 2 other matches that a World Championship slot is on the line for. Over here, we have Carmelo Pinto playing against Mate Zadelkai. It looks like they just wrapped up. And I'm not sure what happened here, but it looks like Mate Zadelkai won. So that puts him up to 2-0 and keeps him going. And then over here, you can see Mike Sigrist playing against Stefan Barrios. And this game is going right down to the bottom of the deck. They're calling a judge, but Mike Sigrist is also on 30 points in the Draft Master race. We're going to let them go as a judge comes over to help them keep things fair and honest through the balance of their match. We're sending it back to the desk and Rich Hagan.
Thanks so much, BDM. Great stuff, as always. Wonder what happens in that Sigrist match. We'll try and get you that result in a bit. Now, Hall of Famers seem to be everywhere at this Pro Tour. 2 of them were matched up at 1-0. Ben Rubin against Patrick Chapin, the innovator. I know so many of you read his articles every week on StarCityGames.com. Rubin won that one, advanced to 2-0 over Chapin, now 1-1. Joel Larson, Pro Tour Magic Origins champion last year. He is at 2-0. And someone else at 2-0 is Seth Manfield, ranked number 2 in the world, reigning world champion, top 8 last weekend in this limited draft format, remember. So no surprise to see Seth Manfield at 2-0. Brad Nelson, one of the big new additions to Team Eureka. We'll have plenty more from BDM in the Eureka house later in the weekend. And how about this one? Shawn Mclaren at 1-0. Well, he got beaten by yet another Hall of Famer, arguably the most famous player in the game, arguably the best player in the history of the game. John Finkel is 2-0. Well, someone else who's 2-0 is Luis Scott Vargas. You saw him in action there with his perfect 10 black-red deck, and boy, it did some filthy things. Well, yesterday, Luis came into the studio to talk about preparations ahead of the Pro Tour. Let's have a listen to that.
All right, I'm here with Luis Scott Vargas from Team Channel Fireball. Luis, welcome to the chairs. We're sitting a little closer than we normally do when we talk to each other.
Actually, we're sitting a little farther than we normally do. We're doing coverage.
That's true. That is true. Coming off of your 6th Pro Tour top 8, anything different coming into this PT for you? As far as expectations go, like, do you feel like, all right, we're back, I'm going to do it again, or is it kind of like just another PT?
Well, I did the natural thing, which you do when you top 8 a Pro Tour, is we switched who we're testing with. So Team Channel Fireball is now testing with Team Ultra Pro instead of Team Face to Face.
You took the good situation and just mixed it up to see what happened.
Team Face to Face came up with a busted deck for that tournament, so of course we had to switch.
Yeah.
No, but I'm actually really looking forward to the Pro Tour. I really like preparing with Ultra Pro, and I think that we're going to do well. I think we've got a good deck. I really like this draft format. This draft format plays to all the things I want to do, but I'm not allowed to in normal formats.
Right.
I think they're right here. I even got Ben Stark to admit that I might be able to draft the decks that I want to draft. So, that's not always the case, and I don't have like expectations like if I don't top 8 I'll be disappointed. It's more that I like both formats, and that's just not always the case.
Okay, now when it comes to the team, this is a big team now, right? You teamed up with Team Ultra Pro and also, from Team Channel Fireball as well. That's a pretty sizable group of players.
Yeah, we're pushing towards 20. I don't know, a little less than that. I don't know the exact count.
So did you guys all come to play in Barcelona, or how did the logistics work?
No, what ended up happening was, I'd say about 2/3 of us came and went either to Barcelona or straight to Madrid last week. We had a couple guys who, Josh, Matt Nass, Patrick Chapin, David Ochoa, who didn't want to play the GP, but didn't want to show up in Europe and be jet lagged.
Do the jet lag thing.
So I would say about 2/3 of the team has been in Spain for about a week. The other third is trickling in over this last day or two.
And how's testing gone in general in your mind? Are you confident?
I think quite well. We started preparing like a month ago. We have, 4 of us live in Denver, so we all just played paper Magic against each other for weeks and just posted our results on our team forum. Yeah, that's actually, I think, a good way to play test is you had like Team Denver, you had like Team Madison, you had all the online people who just play each other over the last couple weeks, and you kind of all share information. Then we all met here in Spain over this last week to really kind of mix and match and try to figure out what everyone thinks.
Now, and that's really cool too, because it seems like you're taking one of the real strengths of Team Ultra Pro, which is sharing information, right? I mean, they took it to the next level by being primarily an online testing team, and that does put you to the test as far as being able to get that information spread to where it needs to go.
Yeah, that's part of what really appealed to us about joining the team, is that we are able to prepare without leaving and prepare and communicate online and have this really good communication system where everyone knows where each other's at to some degree and is able to share their ideas. People are just posting these lists every day and results and thoughts on draft and that sort of thing. We had a couple team conference calls that, but then because the tournament's here in Europe and people wanted to come early, we actually kind of get to mix the two types of approaches.
Sure. Whereas
you have someone like Team Face to Face, they met like 2.5 weeks ago here in Europe. They've just been testing only in paper. Whereas we did most of our testing online, and then we show up here and all test. We had a house we rented for a couple days and stayed there and did our testing there.
Nice. Well, good luck in the PT. Thanks for taking the time.
No problem.
Thanks very much to Marshall Sutcliffe and to Louis Scott Vargas, as always, very generous with his time. Some more people to tell you about. There was a match between Marcio Calvario of Portugal up against Eric Fralick. Marcio, one of the winningest players on the Grand Prix scene, also a very good Pro Tour resume. He advances to 2-0. Eric Fralick, Efro, you'll know him from Constructed Resources with Marshall Sutcliffe, 1-1. Ben Friedman won against his fellow American Stephen Mann. And I want to tell you a little bit about Petr Sahurek of the Czech Republic. Privately, a lot of the Czech players think that Petr is just about the best player from that country, which when you think that Andrej Stradsky is from there, that Martin Müller is from there, well, that's no mean assessment. Now, he won the last standard Grand Prix before the rotation. So on the one hand, that's fantastic pedigree, shows that he really knows his standard stuff. But of course, he now has to build completely from the ground up once again. But the fact that he is now 2-0 is a really strong sign, because he'll be one of those players who thinks, I can get through the morning 2-1, and right now he's had a chance of 3-0, get out at 2-1, and then I can unveil whatever I'm going to play in standard. So he's 2-0. Felipe Valdivia, also of Chile, is here. He's 2-0. And watch out for Shintaro Ishimura of Japan. Not one of the biggest names. Won a Magic Online PTQ to get here. But he has an amazing win percentage at the GP level. Can he transfer that to the PT stage? Well, he's 2-0 right now. All right, so it's time to go inside the draft. And we've got a special feature for you now. The draft viewer, you'll be able to look at every pick of every pack at our feature table from this morning, which featured Reed Duke and Martin Müller. You've already seen them do every pick of every pack. But also at that table was two-time world champion Shahar Shenhar. So we've enlisted Brian David Marshall and Ian Duke to walk you through the key moments of Shahar Shenhar's SOI draft.